Welcome to another episode of the Cuppa with a Conversationalist. My name is Con. I am the Conversationalist. And yes, as always, I have my latte in tow. On today's episode, we're going to try and answer the question that is on the minds of most men. What do women really want? To help answer that question is dating and relationship coach, therapist, and acclaimed author of Master the Language of Attraction, Stefania Puleo. After 2 decades of absorbing women's intriguing man gossip, I love this bit, as a hairstylist and personal trainer, Stefania seamlessly channels her insights to empower high-achieving men in dating with confidence to attract their ideal partner for harmonious and successful relationships. Drawing from her extensive interactions with thousands of women throughout her career, Stefania keenly sensed their discontent with their men. This awareness inspired her mission to guide accomplished men in attracting partners who value them beyond their financial status. Stefania's expertise has earned her invitations to speak on prestigious stages, podcasts, where she divulges the secrets of what women want. She's also sought after guest for men's empowerment workshops and events, and Stefania's mantra echoes through her work. Every man deserves a special woman who, even on your toughest day, reminds you that you are worthy of love. What a gorgeous introduction. Welcome, Stefania. How are you?
I'm great, Con. How are you?
Oh, absolutely super. Thank you very much. I should have run into you 7 years ago, but it's a little bit late now.
Well, I'm happy for you. That's good.
It's interesting reading your bio that you sent. Mentioned that you'd worked for 2 decades in, of all places, hairstylists and gym, and I can imagine some of the conversations that would be had there. And it actually got me thinking. I actually met my partner at a salon.
Really? Wow.
And that is
Interesting.
an absolute true story, which I might share later on. But
Mm.
look, more importantly, let's get into it. What conversations were being had? I'm really curious. And what did you learn from those conversations?
Mm. Well, yeah, I listened. I heard a lot of conversations going on. Well, as you know, in a salon, women particularly love to share. And as, human beings, when we are touched, like anyone that has the license to touch, like a hairstylist, a doctor, a chiropractor, a masseuse, it kind of breaks that barrier that people just kind of get comfortable with you because they like, know, and trust you, obviously, to have them touch you.
Hmm.
So you're going to just relax and sometimes be vulnerable. And what was happening in those years, obviously, predominantly the women would come and share about their relationship issues, whether they were married, whether they were dating, whether they were trying to attract a man. And a lot of the conversation was, he just doesn't get me. If only he knew how I felt. If he just could understand that it's not rocket science, what I'm saying. And it was just like, oh, wow, what is it that men just don't understand? But then on the other hand, the men, because I worked in both a unisex salon here in Melbourne, the men wouldn't, you know, gossip. I must say, men are more, strategic, logical. They tend to keep a lot to themselves. And they would more or less ask me, what do you think she's thinking, Stefania? Like, do you think if I do this, she's going to react like this, or which way do you think? It was just like, I must have had this sign, ask Stefania. She knows all the answers. And as a stylist back in the day, we were told never to give advice. We were a good sounding board. We were hairstylists. People were going to come in and, share everything, but we were not to say, I'll do this or do that or gossip or judge. We were just good sounding boards. So that's what I really was. And I, learned to say, oh, wow, that's interesting. And how did you feel? This was just this normal. How did you react? So I would want to know their stories,
Yeah,
but without really giving them advice, because really they were seeking advice indirectly,
of
or they
course.
wanted validation, confirmation from what they were going through. So yeah, that's the kind of, I guess, conversations we were having. And then, of course, there would be really detailed stories that I would hear that, I could write a book on that.
Maybe that's something that's coming up, and I can imagine, as you said, yeah. Look, and on a whole range of levels, men typically they don't they don't open up, they don't really share, they don't, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whatever. And even from a medical perspective, most blokes won't go to the doctor because that's not being strong, so they bottle it up. uh, I'm curious, there was a great movie with the Australian actor, the guy that played Mad Max. Goodness me, Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson, yeah.
What do women want? And one of the things you see it come up on social media quite often. Would you want $1 million? Or be able to read people's minds? And one of the things that I've always been fascinated with is how great, a bit double-edged sword, really, in reading people's minds. So, tell me, what do women really want?
Okay. So let me just sort of break that question down a little bit, because as we know, everybody's different,
Mm,
right? And all women are different. And for the men out there that have obviously in the dating, scene, or have been through the dating landscape, will know that they've had many dates with different women, and different women want different things. Different women will communicate differently. So what I say to men, there's not one size that fits all. The secret is how to understand the woman that you're with. So if you're eagerly, interested and want to invest in a particular woman, the secret is to know what questions to ask, how to ask those questions to draw the answers that you're looking for, or how to read the signs, how to read some red flags, how to read in between the lines. Because I must admit, as a woman, we're not easy. We're on the complicated side,
I'm
slightly.
glad. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that,
Yes.
and not me.
Yes, no, I agree. I
Yeah.
I totally take responsibility for, my own actions. And looking back now, I think, well, wow, I did confuse the hell out of some guys. I know, I say that in sincerity.
Mm,
So what I'm doing, I'm being that advocate now for men to help them understand and read between the lines, and not to overlook some yellow flags, because sometimes we just characterize them as red flags or a green flag,
mm,
but sometimes we have that in between, a yellow flag, that we need to know how to decipher and how to navigate through that without
mm,
um, you know, either pushing her away or retreating for no reason at all.
mm,
Overreacting, in other
mm.
words. Yeah.
Give us an example of a yellow flag. I'm curious now, because I mean, green flags and red flags for me are, they're pretty obvious. But what's a yellow flag? Give me a couple of examples for the
Okay.
for the
So
men out there.
a yellow flag would be, a woman that would probably want to not want to jump at the fact that you're asking her out, for example. And she kind of likes you, and there's been some kind of backwards and forth, maybe bantering or texting, whatever the case may be.
Mm,
And yet she's saying, oh, she's busy here and she's busy there. Because, the well-known fact is, women are told, don't say yes immediately. However, your body language is going to express that. So there's cues to know that. So the fact that she's, said she's busy here, or maybe says, oh, I got to think about it, or whatever, you've got to understand not just the words that are being said, but read the body language that goes behind it. So that could be a yellow flag.
mm,
That could not be a red flag immediately. Doesn't mean she just said it, and not because she's I'm going to put it straight. You're just probably playing with your head a little bit.
Playing a little bit hard to get.
Yes. Now, I know I say to people, avoid the mind games because that doesn't help. And particularly if you are a mature adult who has dated quite a while, and you're probably at that age where you do want something serious, or you do want a companion that is real, and you don't have to go through all those mind games because you did that in your 20s and your 30s. So now in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you want someone who is going to be transparent. So there's ways of doing it. There's ways of reading the signs. There's ways of reading the cues, etc., etc.
One of the things that I found really interesting, I'm mature age, so I'm in my 60s, and one of the things that I always grew up with was being, let's say, chivalrous. I've opened the door, opened the car door, stuff like that. It's just what I do. Yeah, it's not. I don't do it for the first 5 minutes. It's what I do. And I can honestly and openly say that I've been seeing my partner for 6-7 years now, and to this day, I still open the car door for her.
Wonderful.
And even her family go, "What are you doing?" I'm going, "Well, I'm opening the door." Anyway, where am I going with this? I find there is the females themselves are confused. On one hand, there's the independent boardroom executive, female, powerful, not reliant on any man narrative. But on the other hand, they still want the door opened. They still want the chair pulled out and pushed in. And all those little things, well, I say little, I think they're big to me, little things that make the woman feel special, feminine, etc. And for us blokes, there's some confusion because I've opened a door for a woman, right? And she go, "I don't need you to hold the door open for me." Oh, okay, sorry. So women themselves have created this narrative of confusion of what they really want.
Okay, I'm really glad you brought that up because that is something that is very prevalent and happening in today's society right across the board, like across the world, I think. Not only here. Okay, so to that, I do agree that women have stepped in more into their male energy. We have both male energy and female energy. And as a result, because they are now stepping into their power, there's finding their voice. There's a lot of women's empowerment groups. So women are taking that possibly a little bit to the extreme, to the point where you're right. They are, power women in the office, in the, executive world. And they're then, unfortunately, they don't know how to kind of draw the line. And when they're out socializing or with a man, they're still in that masculine energy. And I do, because I do, coach women from time to time. And I predominantly did start with women. And I say, you have to be aware of that, and you have to stay in your feminine energy, because men, what's happening, and you're right, they're being treated like, "Oh, I've got the door. You don't need to help me." So where men, I strongly suggest, is to help them step into their masculine energy and stay in their masculine energy. And if they're being pushed a little bit by these women that are challenged, because they're like being challenged, like just exactly with that same, I guess, experience that you had. I help men to step in their masculine and stay in their masculine. So when they do come across a woman like that, to hear them, but stay very firmly in their masculine energy and say, "Yeah, I know you can do it, but I'd like to do it for you," for example.
Okay, yeah, good response. I like
that. And that way, you're kind of dissipating that energy that she's staying in, and even in actual fact, she will like that, because these very strong, powerful alpha women out there are all complaining they want men, strong, confident men that have leadership skills, right? And then, yeah, they come along and bulldoze them over only if that man feels that rejection and then steps back and takes it as an insult rather than staying in his power and saying, yeah, I know you can, but I got you. I'd like to do this for you. What is she going to say? She's not going to, she's going to bully you down. Well, then, you're with the wrong woman. Let's face it.
Well, of course. Yeah.
Just take a runner for the opposite direction. So, yeah, there are ways of doing it. And this is where I help men. I work with men. I mentor men to stay in that masculine energy, because these women that they are so attracted to, because who doesn't want an intelligent woman who's independent, has got it together, but is still in her feminine? Because these women can stay in their feminine, but they need men to help them stay in that feminine, if that makes sense, by them staying in their masculine.
Yeah, no, absolutely makes sense. I love that. That's a really, well, for all you gentlemen listening out there, and half of my audience is male, listen up. Okay, so what do you see that, and it was, I've got to laugh about this. There's a program on, I don't watch a lot of TV, but every now and then you just watch some mind-numbing nonsense, first dates. I'm sure you've seen it. And there was, my partner watches a lot of Greek television, and there was a first dates, Greek first dates in Greece. Right, it was cringeworthy, absolutely cringeworthy. And you look at like both sides, men and women, just doing stuff that you go, immediately for me that would be like, it's fun knowing you, bye-bye. What are you seeing, like the really common things that men do that are just like, you go, no, don't do that?
I'd have to say they react very quickly and they take things very personally. And I completely understand it, because, well, why not? She's just gunned me down, or she's just said something that is making me feel whatever. And yeah, it's the reaction. So once again, I help men to be more vigilant and know not to step into that disempowered reaction energy, but to act accordingly, and to know how to navigate and work with these women, whether to know whether to invest and take it further, or whether to cut it off. Because sometimes there's a lot of men that invest unnecessarily and pursue a woman that really they shouldn't be pursuing for whatever reason. And that's what we get to, the bottom of. And a lot of the times it may be, not feeling self-worthy enough, not feeling that they're low self-esteem, their confidence. They read too many books that they've got to do this, they've got to do that. So, when I actually work with people, it's not just the standard. We're working with you, we're working with the individual and with their concerns. Because a lot of this, Con, let me explain. A lot of the times when we're having issues in this current relationship, yes, the current relationship is the trigger of what's happening and what's stirring up in you. But the lady you're with, or the person you're with, she's just the catalyst to make you aware that something's going on inside. So as a therapist, we go on a journey and we heal that area that, may have started this whole triggering system that may have started a lot earlier in life, and heal that event, heal that problem, heal that issue. And that's what we've got to understand. What's happening now is only a transference of what happened in the past and being transferred into the present. Now, we can be conscious of it, but we need the tools on how to handle it. We need the tools. We need to know how to navigate it. So that's why I say, yes, the biggest I guess, no for men, I would say, is the reacting, which gets them into trouble and gets them into strife, or gets them into not so much trouble, but also self-confusion.
Yeah.
And I want to give up, all these women, they're all just the same. There's not a good one out there. They're all catfishing. They're all gold diggers.
Funny you mentioned that. I'll get onto that gold digging part in a minute. But you did raise something a second ago that I'd like to touch on.
Mhm.
Is and I've got pardon me, I've got mates who are about my age, and some are in relationships, some aren't. But it's a constant theme that I hear from their partner's friends, female friends.
Mhm.
Oh, have you got, pardon me, have you got a brother? Oh God, I wish you had a brother. Oh, there's no good men left out there.
Mhm.
Well, really? What are your thoughts on that? What do you say to women when they say, "Oh, there's just no good men left out there"? What, everyone's
Right.
taken? Really?
Exactly. So I say to them, is that what you believe? And they look at me. Well, yeah, because there's no one out there. I said, well, your beliefs actually create your reality. So
Mm,
if you believe that, that's exactly what you're going to get, because that's what you're attracting, unavailable men.
mm,
It's as simple as that. I know it sounds so simple that it sounds ridiculous. Well, yeah, because you are so set on that's your paradigm. That's what you have either been led to believe because that's been modeled to you as a child, or you have had some kind of trauma in your life that now you've decided that all men are the same and there's no good men left out there.
I'm going to take this sideways now because you've kind of opened the barn door a little bit for me.
Mm-hmm.
I started my personal development journey, I don't know, probably 20 years ago. And, of course, manifestation is a thing. And most people have probably read The Secret. And it's from it's superficial. There's no question about that. There's no depth in it. People thought that, they could close their eyes, wish for their perfect partner, and that, perfect bloke, 6'2", six pack, a bucket ton of money would just knock on her door. Well, we know that isn't the case.
Mm.
What I do want to ask you, and what I do find interesting, is let's take a single person, male or female, doesn't matter, right? And they live on their own, and they in their heart, in their mind, they are indeed looking for that person to spend the rest of their lives with, etc. But their bedroom is a pigsty. There's no wardrobe space barely for them, let alone for anybody else. The bed's either small, or the other half is full of pillows and goodness knows what else. Am I right in saying that that's actually sending a counterproductive message to the universe in terms of law of attraction?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Elaborate
Yeah.
from
Okay.
from
Because
from 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 your level of expertise,
Mhm.
because my audience may think that I'm just making this stuff up. But
Mm.
from a professionals, tell me about it.
Well, usually they say your external environment is a reflection of your internal environment. So if you have everything kind of scattered or disorganized or dirty or whatever the case may be, or it doesn't look like it's an inviting bedroom that a
Mm,
woman would want to come into. Well, that's the message you're actually giving out to the universe,
mm,
to women. And you may attract women. I'm not saying you're not going to attract women, but you're going to attract like-minded women, because they say like attracts like. So you're going to attract women that are probably, most likely, definitely in that energy field of being disorganized, untidy, scattered, confused, don't know what they want, because that confusion you have around you is usually the confusion we have inside us. Yeah.
mm.
And that's why we can't commit. We're confused. we don't know whether to go up with this one or that one. We don't know whether we should continue this toxic relationship that we're in. We're confused. We are a reflection of our environment. Yes.
I'm actually making a note of this because it's, as I said, it needs to go into the notes. Okay. The old, the other famous question, does she really only want me for my money? And, you know, again, God, I'm going to get into trouble saying this. I just feel it. Guys, you know, there's this stigma that men are only interested in, you know, women who are much younger than they are, and et cetera, et cetera. And then there's always the question in the back of the mind, well, you know, does she really want me for me, or is it just for my money? How do you advise men, or how do you go about resolving that challenge for them, and indeed getting it, well, not getting them to answer the question so they feel comfortable in moving forward with a relationship, content that, hey, Stefania's not out, she's not after me just for my cash.
Right. Great question, because that comes comes up all the time, particularly when I'm working with my clients. And, you know, men in general, I would say very generous. You know, like I've come across some that aren't, and obviously they've been, you know, jaded or whatever. And I'm not saying that men should stop being generous or stop being chivalrous. However, there are, you know, also again signs. There are the red flags we've got to look out for. You got to understand the lady's body language. They've got to understand the lady's language. You know, is she asking for you to pay for this, pay for that? Is she asking you to, you know, pay for her new 4 set of wheels in the car? Her fridge is just broken down. Are her kids like wanting medication and she can't afford? Is she complaining all the time? Is she talking about money all the time? That's definitely a red flag. You know, is she interested in you? What kind of investing is she doing in you? Or is it all about her? What she wants? Is it all about me, 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 me? Because she's a beautiful woman, because she has the, you know, the beauty, the body, she's great in bed. Yeah. Men
Don't be
sometimes
suckers, men.
sometimes use that as a, you know, there's a payoff. So they're drawn into that. They're drawn into that alluring energy, which can be fun and it can serve its purpose. But you've got to know what you want. You know, is this what you want? How do you want to feel in your relationship? Is it making you feel a certain way? And this is where, again, working with my clients, I get them to tap into their own energy, their own intuition. You know, the answers lie within us. We just have to have the tools and know how to access those answers. It's not like I'm going to come along and say, what is she doing? Da, da, da. No, she's no good for you. No, that's not my job. I will help you, you know, the client to work through that, and you're going to get the answers because it's going to come from you, from your own self-development, your own self-evolvement. And this is why I say to men, this is so important. This isn't just a joke when I talk about being encouraging men to self-develop. You know, you've been developing and being in self-development for the last 20 years, you said, correct? Right. I think that's magnificent. There's a lot of men out there wouldn't even know what it is. And what's happening now, Con, and you may be able to agree with me, women are working on themselves a hell of a lot more than what men are. They're stepping into their power. They're doing all these self-development courses, and men are just staying stagnant. They're still staying very grounded. And I say, in a very literal way, in their caveman energy, that they don't want to budge. They don't need it. They've got it under control. But these women are working on themselves and men aren't. And that's where the imbalance is happening. If men step into their power and they work on themselves and really self-develop, self-evolve, learn about energies, learn about emotional intelligence, learn about women to then be able to work with that energy rather than feel either threatened, react, rejected, or get into that, victim,
Yeah.
persecutor, rescuer
Yeah.
energy that is a cycle. We all get stuck in it, whether we're women or men. However, I do encourage that men are more aware of that, so they're not stuck in that cycle of being, a rescuer, being, a persecutor or a victim. Because when you're in that cycle, that's when you're in that cycle of, attracting toxic in relationships, I believe.
It's no, I absolutely agree. And it's interesting what you said about the majority, like more women are looking at um, developing them and well, developing themselves, not becoming better, but building on their
Evolving.
skills, evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah, good word. And because I mean, for all the, pardon me, for all the workshops and seminars that I've been to, it's always heavily weighted towards female, always.
Right, because they're the first ones to put their hands up, right? Because they want to step in their power. They've already had that taste of, you know, independence, freedom, and stepping into their power and using their voice. So they're just going full ball. Again, I'm saying that's a great thing, but gentlemen, have a
Catch
look
up,
at what's happening. Catch up.
catch up.
Don't just sit there and feel, oh, she's treated me a certain way or do. Well, yes, she is, but you're also allowing that to happen. We need to take responsibility.
Oh, absolutely. That is the probably number one rule of personal development. Take responsibility for where you are. And look, one thing that I learned many years ago, which I absolutely love, is in terms of we make ourselves feel quite powerless about resolving whatever challenge we have. And certainly certain things are beyond our control. But what I learned many years ago from a guy by the name of Kerwin Ray is if once you take responsibility for where you are, it's enormously liberating because you created the mess you're in. You have the power to create another reality. So it's really quite an empowering belief, an empowering perspective on things.
Absolutely.
Are you finding, again, we'll go back to men potentially chasing younger women, etc. Is that something that you see, or is that something that's a sociological myth that men are typically chasing, that younger woman? So, the guy's in the boardroom, he's in his 50s and working like a dog, but he's got tons of money, and he wants the trophy on the arm. So he's looking for this hot, 30-year-old. Is that generally what happens, or not really?
Is that happening? Is that what you're asking me? Is that
Well, I'm saying A, is it happening? But B, is that the common? Is that stereotype actually true, or is that just isolated?
No, I would say that is true. That there is some truth in that. Now, for whatever reason that's happening, I can't, comment on that. There'd be a number of reasons. I mean, sure, why wouldn't any, say mature 50-year-old not feel good with like a 25, 30-year-old at, on his arm, like, and he's
Sure.
having a great time and she's giving him a great time, and that's all good. We need to discover, is this what you want? Is this real, or is this just a certain period in your life you're going through? Or is this period being, is it overdue and you're still stuck in that period of, attracting these type of women? The answers could be many, Con. I can't comment, but if that makes men feel good for whatever reason, and it might just be superficial. We look at it as superficial. However, I must say there have been also some couples that I've seen together that there is a big age difference. And there may be like even up to 20 years. And it is working out. But she's also a mature, say 25-year-old, 30-year-old.
Yeah.
And she's not the glamour queen, so to speak. You know, she's not pretentious or anything. She's down to earth, and they've found each other. There's this soulmate connection, and I do believe that that can happen as well.
Sure.
But you know, the whole energy around that type of couple is totally different. So you know, it depends what we're speaking about. If we're talking about someone who's, you know, he's quite well off and he's got a really nice cars, he's got a great business, the money's coming in, and he is attracting these women because he's wanting to be with younger women. These women are making him feel a certain way, whether it's, you know, sexually, physically, stimulating mentally, whatever it is. And there's no right or wrong. I just say it is what it is. It may have an expiry date, and it's only up to that individual to know when that, if there is a date that if there is an expiry date, to work it out. But in having said that, you know, if you are in that kind of position, don't complain that you're only attracting gold diggers, because you are also, you know, showcasing possibly your money. And of course, why wouldn't any young woman want to drive in your Lamborghini or Ferrari and be taken out to the, you know, the Crown Casino, for example, here in Melbourne, or somewhere lash and be spoiled to the spoiled rotten? Why not?
No.
She's going to lap it up. Let's face it.
Why wouldn't you? The other question that is quite hotly debated is who should pay on the first date?
We're still having those conversations, are we?
I'm curious.
Well, let me ask you, Con, who do you think, as a man that's, you know, a mature gentleman?
If I've asked in the past, and again, just in case my partner hears this, I don't do it now, love. I'm monogamous.
Yes.
In the past, if I asked a person out and the motive was a prospective relationship, you know, and it was, I was instigated and I felt there was some attraction, etc., I always paid. It was never a question of, you know, we'll go halves. If it's a casual catch up and it's you know, let's go out, just grab a bite to eat or something like that. Whilst I didn't shove the bill down her throat, I was quite happy for her to go, oh, yep, no, yeah, I had that. Oh, yeah, here's $20 or whatever. But in a relationship or that those initial stages where I'm looking to develop, I always paid. It was never a question, and I never found anybody that, you know, would order Dom Perignon or you know, lobster thermidor and whatever, and be, you know, really naughty about it. So is that the right answer, Stefania?
Yes,
did I pass?
Excellent. Yeah. Well, I was just curious to know your answer, and for other men to actually hear what you've got to say as well, because you know you've sort of been through the dating scene, obviously, and I say, what is it you want to attract? How do you want to feel? And what intention do you have as far as dating? Is it dating casually? Is it dating with, are you dating with intention? Are you dating to actually attract someone who possibly, you know, could be a lifetime partner or a partner for a commitment of some sort? So, you know, if you're asking a woman out, particularly on the first date, yeah, it would be chivalrous to say, you know, I got this, because you have asked her out, you are showing interest. Is she showing interest and you know, really engaging? Well, you're going to want to pay for that as well, because you know she's enjoying your energy as much as you're enjoying hers. However, you know, if you notice that there's some red flags, you don't go on another date.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an investment. It's an investment.
Cut your losses.
Exactly. I mean, women are investing in themselves also to look good for you on that date, you know, like, I mean, as much as it's for themselves, they say, well, you know, I've put in so much effort. I've had my hair done. I've done this, I've done that. but everything has to be weighed up. I'm not saying there's no right or wrong.
Mm,
Now, I also say, well, what are your values? What's important to you? Is money
mm,
important to you? Now, we got to look at where money is on your value scale. And, if you want to attract someone that, this is really important, that they go halves in everything, again, there's nothing wrong with that.
mm,
You are going to attract that type of woman. And because that's what's important to you. We can't say this is right or this is wrong. Men should pay all the time, or men should pay on the first
mm.
date. There are men that won't even pay on the first date. There are men that don't do that.
There are men that won't pay second, third, and fourth date, Stefania.
Correct.
And so, from my perspective, that should be a red flag for the woman as well. But
Yeah, because like what? Okay, so where is this going? What are we doing? Are we just friends? If we're just friends, yeah, I guess there's nothing wrong with that. You go out with your girlfriend, you pay half each anyway, right? Um, yeah, so
mm,
I would answer it. I would say that, yeah, it's entirely up to you. It's entirely up to you. And if you are a generous type of guy, which I know there's a lot of generous guys out there
mm,
who get taken for a ride, just know how to navigate through that so you aren't taken for a ride, and that you aren't giving them overly giving,
mm,
overly investing, and then feel like you've just been hard done by and cheated and betrayed, and she
mm.
took all my cash. And well, yeah,
Yeah,
she took it because you also gave it to her. So
yeah,
again, go back to the responsibility part of things. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. You left the vault open with a sign on it. Don't complain
help
when it's
yourself.
emptied afterwards. Help yourself.
Exactly.
Stefania, I've really enjoyed our conversation. I love this kind of stuff, and what's interesting is that typically a conversation like this in a social environment, particularly where there's emotion attached to it, can become quite heated. And you're a misogynist, you're a male chauvinist pig, or whatever. And what a lot of people don't get is that a lot of the times, both men and women just want to have a conversation, not even a debate, have a conversation, an exchange of ideas. That doesn't mean that you're right or wrong. It doesn't mean, she's a bitch and he's an asshole. It doesn't mean any of that. It's just you've got your opinion. You're absolutely entitled to it, as does the other person. So I've really enjoyed this, and I really, really appreciate your time. Look,
Thank you.
as I always do with my guests to take us out, and I know you've got an event and a free gift for our listeners, which we'll get to in a moment. I'll get you to explain. And for the audience, I'll make sure that all the links to the things that Stefania shares here are in the show notes, so you can access those. Tell me, give us your top 3 tips, Con's top tips on for men in their quest to find that deep, meaningful relationship.
Well, the first one I would say is don't take rejection as rejection.
Oh, I love.
How do you take rejection? Because rejection is, right? Let's turn it around, and let's take it as feedback. So when you are feeling rejected, don't sort of take it so personally that it crushes you. Look at it as feedback, because feedback is the best thing you can get from anybody.
I love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
One that I mentioned before was don't react. Know how to act and navigate around women, and learn. And to follow up with that is learn not to characterize women all in the one scale. If you are with a particular woman, learn how to ask the right questions, be curious without being invasive, and really, make it about her. Because let's face it, women love attention, but you're going to want to make it about her with genuine interest.
Yeah.
Genuine curiosity to know about her, rather than just fluffing her feathers. So just,
Yeah.
that term in Australia. I've
Yeah.
said that to
Yeah.
Americans, they're fluffing your feathers.
Feathers.
Yeah. You know, meaning, just don't make it feel good just for the sake of, what to, the ideal script. No, we don't
Mm,
follow a script. We learn to engage in who you're engaging with, how to read the energy, know the cues, and navigate through it without sweating it, without
mm.
all the drama. Because really, we don't have to make relationships so
Sure.
dramatic. We don't. It's very simple. What makes it dramatic, I believe, is the emotions we add to it, the stories we add to it. And, men are very
Mm.
strategic. They're very logic. They compartmentalize. So we need to, you know, do similar, but with emotional intelligence involved.
Mm.
Okay. Being so strategic, but not being so black and white, learning about emotional
Mm.
intelligence.
Yeah, love
Yeah.
it. Great. I love that. Don't take rejection as a rejection. Yeah, very, very good. Okay. Stefania, I mentioned earlier you've got an exclusive event in Melbourne. Tell us about that.
Oh, yes. I'm so excited. In a couple of weeks, on the 15th of May, I do have an exclusive singles event, which is Mingle with Distinction. It is for 45 plus mature adults wanting to meet high caliber, conscious people to, date or mingle, find companionship, whatever it is. It's happening. And it's a little bit different. I just want to explain it's not just your conventional speed dating or,
Mm,
walk around with a glass hoping that someone's going to talk to you, a glass of wine or whatever. There's going to be activities. There's going to be activities that help people even learn how to date with intention.
mm.
And, you'll be mingling. There'll be a little bit of speed dating with a twist. I'm not going to give too much
No.
away. Lots of laughter, contagious laughter, and lots of fun and food as well.
Excellent, excellent. And that's so that's May the
Food
15th.
and drink, food and drink.
Mingle with distinction. And as I said, we'll have the link to that event in the show notes for the audience. And also, you mentioned there's a free gift which
Yeah.
you're offering to our male listeners.
Yes, absolutely. It is a guide on how to attract your ideal partner. And it is a gentleman's guide on how to avoid the pitfalls of dating. That's the guide. And I think
Mm.
every man out there should have it. Not because I've written it, but it is a very simple read, but very effective, and it's got some really good points in there. You can get that for free at www.freegift the gentleman, MEN, plural, square.com. And I know that'll be in the link, the
Abs-
links, but just so people can
Absolutely.
hear it on your audio as well.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Stefania, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting and certainly answered some of my questions. As I said, I wish I had have known you 8 years ago. It would have made a little bit of difference, but nevertheless, we are where we are. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today has been Stefania Puleo. My name is Con. I am the Conversationalist. And until next time, bye for now.